following is a production of
The garage area.
Welcome to the garage area. This is our Texas weekend recap show. We saw Corey Heim win the truck race. We saw Kyle Larson win the Xfinity Series race. And for a minute, we thought Kyle Larson might win the Cup race too, but it ends up being Joey Logano, last year's champion, that gets his first win of the season, his first top five of the year too, impressively enough, and gets it in the form of a win. I'm very excited about that. I know Ryan's excited about that. Really, really interested to hear his take on this race. Before we normally we start talking about our picks and our rating of the race, but I actually just kind of want to walk through the race a little bit, just kind of hitting the key moments. Carson Hocevar started on the pole and wasn't the typical Spire qualifying on the pole moment. He actually stayed up front and led quite a few laps. I think he led over 20 laps today, and maintained his position in the top 10 most all day. Obviously, he's a bit of a disadvantage, I would assume. I didn't really suss out the numbers on pit road, but he was able to hang near the front quite a bit. Austin Cindric was somebody else that was fast a lot today. Denny Hamlin ended up blowing up. That was a key moment of the race. Josh Berry wrecked while leading. That was a big deal. Um, there seemed to be a lot of issues with cars either spinning by themselves and then collecting guys, or just a lot of calamity in turn three there in that set of bumps that Kevin Harvick was talking about on the broadcast all day. At least that was my impression. Was that your impression that that was where guys were losing it?
Yeah, really, or especially on the high side coming off of four.
Yeah.
That was yeah, they hit that bump and it just you watch the car bounce really hard.
Yeah. Kyle Busch had a good run for a while, was actually in third when he had the same fate happen to him where he ended up spinning out and tagging the wall. Brad Keselowski had the same thing happen to him. And boy, that battle with Logano and McDowell at the end of the race, that was interesting. I guess I'd kind of want to just focus on the end of the race to start with, and we can kind of talk about some of the other moments as we get into the show here a little bit. Um, it looked like for as many restarts as they kept having, that Blaney was going to be able to make it work on that outside for quite a while. And finally, they just got to the point where I don't know if McDowell just got a better restart or what, but McDowell got out front and Blaney was working his way up there. And it seemed like McDowell, again, another Spire car that was fast this weekend, got his way up there on some strategy, and track position was a big deal, it seemed like. Uh, Ended up, maintaining his position out front in clean air. And finally, kind of that final run, Logano kept running him down. He was clear of Blaney, and I kept watching. It was 3/10, and they would be even. And then Logano would gain a little bit, then Logano would gain a lot. And then when he kind of started running that high lane in one and two, he would get a big run down the backstretch. And finally, he got to the point where he had such a run that McDowell almost took him to the infield. Like he took him all the way down the racetrack. And of course, Joey being Joey, never lifted and made his way underneath McDowell and passed him. And then Blaney caught McDowell and ran him down. And just, I'll give McDowell credit that the car is the problem when it came to Blaney sliding over his nose and he just got in the wake of the air of the 12 car and ended up tagging the wall. But McDowell should have, and he said it in his own interview afterwards, should have just conceded that. Like, hey, we lost two spots. We're still having a really good day. You're not going to win the race right now. Like the shot of winning is gone unless you get a caution. What you need to do is maintain your track position. Just hang in there. And he didn't end up doing that and drove it too hard and ended up in the fence. And that's easy for me to be critical of McDowell, I'm sure, but it just seemed like an unnecessary move by him. Both blocking Joey clear to the infield seemed like that was unnecessary, and kind of the aggression behind Blaney as well that ended up taking him out. Do you have anything that you wanted to add before we kind of get into talking about that a little deeper?
Yeah, I mean, McDowell, he probably should have started his block a little bit sooner. He just mistimed it, and Joey had just got slightly inside of him. Just McDowell didn't get back up the track to arc his corner correctly, and it just messed. Technically, it messed Logano up corner two, but Logano got less messed up than McDowell did, and that was all she wrote for McDowell there. So that's
Would you say
about all I
that
got to that. Huh?
Would you say that Joey had his nose in the hole?
Yeah.
Yep. Uh, yeah, and a good run for Blaney too. He was kind of beating himself up afterwards, saying the driver didn't get it done today. Um, and kind of, I don't know. I don't think that he really. I guess I don't know all the details of Blaney's deal, but I didn't think that he did a bad job from anything that I could see. Just kind of the way that it all shook out. Track position definitely meant a lot. I don't think it meant as much as I thought it was going to, though. Um, it felt like there was some ability to pass, but not, it wasn't the typical issue that we have with arrow blocking and um, just you can get a run, you can get beside somebody, but you can't get by them. And I'm glad of that, but at the same point, like it still needs fixed. Like it's still a problem. Texas itself is a track that I haven't been real excited about in most recent years. But if you look at the racetrack, when you see seam sealer going down, you know that the track's starting to age a little bit. And it seemed like this weekend as a whole provided better racing than I anticipated it providing.
Yeah. I felt like last year's was a little bit better because last year,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
Chase
know.
Elliott won.
Well, yeah, I remember that. But even then, I remember air being a big thing in his win too, because he blocked. I remember he put air on Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin wrecked, and then he put air on Chastain on the next restart, and Chastain didn't wreck, but he pushed up the track, and I think that made Chastain fell back to Byron, and then them two wrecked there. But I don't remember the whole race, but I felt like after Texas, I thought, "Ooh, this is going to be a pretty decent race now. Maybe the track is finally coming to us and um, putting on a show." And then I don't know. Today, I just felt like that there was the moment, and I don't remember if it was stage one where they had the three Fords lined up, and Larson was like fourth, and they had I don't know if it was, they had two tires, and Larson had four, and Larson just with that air just couldn't make any passes on them guys, and it just felt like it was just once they got lined up there, it was just there. I mean, the only argument you say is Reddick nearly got up there and passed him there at the end of the stage, but it just I just still felt like there's just too much aero dependency, and the track creates a lot of calamity. That's kind of how my view is on it. I didn't really felt like this just wasn't what I'm looking for in this car and this racetrack. So
All right, two things. One, you can tell me that I'm wrong because I don't remember for sure. That deal where the three Fords had two tires and Larson had four, wasn't that a relatively short run to the end of the stage?
it was about a midpoint, like 30 lap run.
Okay, that was longer than I thought it was then.
Yeah,
Because yes, I would agree with that. Like I think the two tires should be able to hang on for a bit, but probably 10 laps I'd say is the most.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Mm.
McDowell's held on for 40 laps till he wrecked.
Yeah, but they had a
Yeah,
lot of like Boyer or somebody said on the broadcast they had a lot of cycles on the tires to kind
yeah,
of even
true,
it
but
out. I
yeah,
can see that a little bit more. I agree that two tires should be able to give you a little something to work with for a little bit, and then four should eventually take over. And yeah, that needs a little extra work for sure. I guess what I'm saying is I just think it was better than I anticipated it being. I'm not saying that I thought it was great or good, but it's not like we're going to Kansas next week, right?
yeah,
Yeah, Kansas is going to be a better race. It will, just all things being what they are. I'm looking forward to that way more than I'd be looking forward to coming back to Texas. I just think that for my expectations for Texas, this exceeded them.
yeah. I just feel like being somewhat excited after Texas based on the racing, not just because Chase Elliott won, but last year, and I just this year I felt like it took a step down.
Mm, yeah. I'm sure that my perspective is a little skewed because of the winner, just as yours probably was last year because of the winner. It's my
Could be,
guess.
yeah.
Um, T tell me this, do you think that my perspective is skewed also, not just because Joey won, but because of the fact that there was more wrecks today? Do you think that that makes it look like a better race than it was?
Um, Man, I feel like the wrecks made it worse just because of how most of the wrecks happen is due to air and like guys are losing traction because of the air, not just because they're on the edge.
Yeah,
The only one I wreck I could argue that was because someone went over the edge racing hard was Noah Gragson in that first stage.
yeah,
That he just drove in too hard. Where I feel like it was just a moment. I watched, and after Denny Hamlin had that pit miscue where
Yeah.
he everyone else pitted and he was the only one left out on the track, and then he
Yeah.
pitted the next time at a start in the back. I watched him get a run through one and two and pull up the Ty Dillon. And as soon as he got within the wake of Ty Dillon, just pushed right up the track and lost all the momentum he had. And I just, after I saw that, I just like this track and this car is just is there's something wrong here. Denny Hamlin should have been able to pass 5 or 6 cars with the talent and equipment he has at this track, being that far back in the field, and he just Ty Dillon. I mean, put air on him and made him lose his momentum. And if you paid attention throughout the field, you just saw that everywhere in the field. So I just that's kind of what I started paying attention to. And some of them were the bumps that they would get. I put that on the track, but these cars are too low to the ground too, in my opinion. That if your car is bouncing off the ground and causing you to wreck, that's more in the car also. So I just between the track and his car, it just I don't know, it just kind of made me upset.
Yeah, I can understand your frustration there, especially because Chase Elliott finished 16th. There's I want to throw a stat out for you, and this is according to Racing Reference after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Texas that we just watched today. According to NASCAR Loop data, there were 2,074 passes, an average of 10 and a half passes per green flag lap. And you're arguing that you can't pass?
How many? There was what 12 cautions.
Yes, for 73 laps.
Now, how many of those passes were on the restarts?
Probably a lot of them.
Because if you're 2 by 2 on a restart and you got people checking up here and there and this and that, you're gonna get a lot of passing per loop. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's how it was counted per loop or at the line.
Well, I would assume that it's counted, the general passes are counted per loop. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my guess. Because lead changes, there was only 20 of those. And I know that those are counted at the line.
Yeah, so that's I have to know more about that, but I mean things can change so much, especially on those restarts and 2 by 2s and stuff and whatnot. But once these cars got spread out, it was really hard to drive up through the field, especially once you got to the lead. Um, yeah, I guess you saw it with Reddick. Even he was gonna make pass for the lead there at the end of stage one. But I feel like once he got up to second or third, it took him a couple extra laps to get by those guys who had the cleanest of air. You saw it with Blaney once he got up to Larson there at the was it the end of stage three before the green flag pit stops were starting to start and stuff. Blaney run down Larson, but Larson could run his line and take away the air. Couldn't couldn't get by him. Of course, there was a lap car in between there. He was actually that's another point that Cole Custer had fresher tires than Kyle Larson, and Kyle Larson just kept air blocking Cole Custer to keep him between him and Blaney.
Yeah.
And Cole Custer should have been able to blow back by Larson. But it just that's the that's what you get with this car now. You just put air on the guy. The tires weren't wearing out. The cars are so aero dependent. The track is treacherous, and just put all three together. I just to me didn't put on a good race.
Wow, strong opinions from the Chase Elliott fan here today. Uh,
Chase Elliott is just bad, so that's who cares anymore.
Clip that one. All right. Uh, Joey Logano won the race, led 7 laps. Kyle Larson led the most laps, finished fourth. That was 90 laps that he led. Byron was out front for 22. Carson Hocevar in the Ride the Dente Chevrolet was out there for 22 laps as well out front. Austin Cindric led 60 laps. He was out there leading quite a bit. Ended up getting caught up in a wreck. Um, Michael McDowell also 19 laps that he led. Josh Berry, 41 laps, wrecked while leading. We covered that. Yeah, I'm just kind of reading through the list of the finishers and guys that I thought were notable. Ross Chastain kind of came out of nowhere to finish second. Blaney was fast all day. We talked about Larson. Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek, both legacy cars, ended up finishing in the top 10, and that was a good day for them. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in sixth, Austin Dillon seventh. Daniel Suarez got a top 10. So those guys all had really good days. Ty Dillon actually finished 12th. Um, Riley Herbst, I really haven't heard much about him all year. It feels like he's almost been non-existent. He got 14th. Justin Haley without Rodney Childers ended up 15th. And all those guys finished ahead of Chase Elliott in 16th. Uh, your pick, we should talk about that. Your pick, Tyler Reddick, ended up 21st. A car that ran really well, finished second in both stages, ended up spinning kind of. Did he basically spin himself out? Did I interpret that correctly?
Yeah, pretty much. Suarez was inside of him in the tri-oval, and instead of I don't know how Reddick came down into him, and Suarez wasn't going to go into the grass because we've seen that cause havoc the previous 2 days. So he
Yeah.
pretty much took himself out right there. So that's how that went.
And then, of course, Bubba Wallace ended up getting caught up in a wreck also. He finished 33rd. Um, didn't have a good day points wise for me. So I think you said that I lost a little ground to you there, a lot of ground. Ty Gibbs actually had a decent run most of the day, but I'm not sure what happened to him. I know you mentioned that there was a possibility that he got caught up on that pit cycle where guys had been on pit road and then the caution came out. He ended up finishing 23rd, was the last car in the lead lap, but that's surprising based on where he ran most of the day. Carson Hocevar, Austin Cindric, Michael McDowell, they all had good runs and ended up wrecking. And again, same thing with Josh Berry. Led quite a few laps, finished 32nd. But yeah, those are really the guys that stood out to me. Anybody from that lineup that you wanted to talk about?
Um, yeah, I don't have any particular one to talk about. I guess. I mean, a lot of that is probably due to attrition, and wrecks, and stuff there at the calamity at the end. People restarts and stuff, pushing their cars too high and losing positions here and there and stuff. But um, yeah, I don't have anything particular to say about anybody there. But
I think the things that stood out to me there is I didn't expect Legacy to run as well as they did. And as a whole, Eric Jones did pretty decent today. It wasn't like he came out of nowhere. It wasn't strictly from attrition, I guess. I don't know about John Hunter Nemechek. I didn't really pay attention to him throughout the race. The Spire cars were fast all weekend, and that impressed me. I figured it was going to be kind of a, oh yeah, they qualified up front, and then they'll fade to the back throughout the race. Something will happen, and stuff did happen. They both wrecked, but they ran really well, and I thought that they put on an impressive show throughout the weekend. Um, let's go ahead and we can go ahead and move into our picks then. Um, you had Tyler Reddick. Do you have the results pulled up? I just closed them.
yeah,
Where did Reddick finish?
uh, 21st.
And Bubba finished 33rd.
Yep.
And what was the points gap you opened up on me?
24 points I gained.
And
So
what's the total gap right now?
I'll
Did you do that? I was
see. It was 102 total points now. So
gonna say it had to have been over 100 points.
yeah.
That's impressive. So you would have had a much bigger day on me had Reddick been able to stay up front and not wreck himself. Um, but of course, the day that Bubba Wallace is due to have a bad one is the one that I pick him. Um, but where did William Byron finish?
Um, he finished 13th, which
Hmm.
is actually pretty decent considering the damage he had from that pit road incident. And
He was the other guy that I was considering picking. So, I mean, obviously it would have been a better finish than Bubba, but I'm glad I didn't burn a William Byron pick on this Texas race.
I almost picked Denny, so that's I
Oh,
dodged a bullet there. So
yeah, apparently.
a
You like
grenade, whatever you want to call it.
you like your Denny pick.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so well, now that we got through our picks and where they finished, let's talk about the rating of the race. Just go off. Tell me what you got.
I mean, I feel like I've already gone off pretty much
You have
on
gone off.
how it was, but to me, I still feel like as much as I hated the race, I feel like it's been a little bit better than we had been watching. But I think I still got to go 4. I just it's I don't know, it's just too much air dependency for my take. Not enough tire wear, not enough driving the car over the limits and stuff. And I don't know. I'm just lost for words of what's wrong with this with the cars and they just got to rip the whole underbodies out of these things, the splitters, the diffusers, the literal underbody they have, and just try it. That's what I think they got to do something to get these cars up off the ground.
Yeah. Um, well, you were telling me just before we started recording that you think that the splitter invention of the car of tomorrow was the downfall of the entire sport of NASCAR.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the first couple years of the car of tomorrow is what really, especially with Kyle Busch talked about it, like the first race at Bristol, these things are bricks and you can't drive them, or can't race, or can't pass. And there's been some highlights of generations of cars in between, but that's to me that's when the real underbody downforce started, was with the splitters. Um, Obviously, teams were doing things with other parts under the car to give themselves more downforce and stuff, but um, no, I've seen tricked out oil pans and whatnot and stuff to try and get that downforce and stuff and whatnot. But um, to me, that's ingenuity with the teams, and it creates diversity and stuff like that, and makes good racing, I think. So um, just I feel like all these cars being the same now just kind of sucks the life out of the diversity and stuff. And um, you know, I guess everybody wants diversity nowadays, so why don't we let these guys run different cars? That's where I'm at with this race. It just too much dependency on air and air blocking, and no tire wear, no horsepower, no nothing.
Noted. Ryan's pro diversity. I'll make sure I mark that in. He wants to start his own NASCAR Drive for Diversity program. All right. You got anything else to say about it before I talk?
No.
All right. I'm torn on this. I really am. Because do I think it was good racing? No. If you said, hey, we fixed it, this is what you're going to get every week now. Is this what you want? No, it's not. Because I've seen what the Gen 4 car provides. I've seen what the little bit of space in between the car tomorrow and the tail end of the Gen 6 car provided. I know what good racing looks like. I've watched it week after week. And to see this improvement, which it is, and go, I'm good with this. I can't do that. But I think that the tires mattered more than they have at a lot of the different mile and a halves, especially this year. And not that we've been at a lot of mile and a half. So I should say they've mattered more than any other race that we've seen this year, in my opinion. And you could get a run, you could pass, but the air was a big problem still. And when they're talking about coming across the back of the car like you're going across a boat wake, that's a problem. I don't like that at all. I like being able to get up behind somebody's back bumper and take the air off their spoiler and watch that back end step out on them and see them gather it back up without actually wrecking the car. That's what I enjoyed watching. But yeah, to have to drive in a defensive position when you're behind somebody, I don't like that. And that's what we have. I think that the finish was good with Joey running down McDowell and McDowell blocking him clear down to the inside and Joey finally getting by him. I thought that that was good racing. That was both good and entertaining. But would I vote yes on Jeff Gluck's poll? I don't know. Um, Definitely better, but was it good? And I don't want to be a constant sound of negativity like you like to be. And I'd like to have at least some sort of positivity involved in the racing. Otherwise, why are we watching it all? It's a tough spot to be in. I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm still undecided on where I'm gonna vote in the poll tomorrow, but I'm gonna give it a 6 just because it exceeded my expectations for Texas, and it's better than what we've seen recently out of this car this year. Maybe after Kansas next week, I'll go, can't believe I put a 6 on Texas. I don't know, but we'll see what that looks like. I'm looking forward to Kansas. What's your number? Did you give it a 4?
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
You gave it a 4. Okay. So you gave it a 4. I gave it a 6. Um, I think that people aren't going to agree with us though. I think they're going to say it was a better race because of the fact that there was more wrecks and because of the way that it finished.
I already saw people on Twitter saying this was a pretty good race, even without the wrecks and this and that. And I feel like the wrecks and the restarts is what made anything compelling at all. The nerves of watching the restarts and who you're rooting for and hope who wins and this and that, and that's what to me made this race somewhat close. Had the thing gone green, you just kept like when Larson was up front at the time, and if he just kept air blocking Blaney, it's just I would have probably made it seem worse than what it even was. So
Probably right.
that's where I stand with it.
Yeah, I can't tell if you have a negative view of the situation or if you just have the most realistic one.
Yeah.
It's kind of right on the borderline. Yeah, that pretty much covers anything that I wanted to talk about from the Cup race. Big disappointment for Josh Berry, I thought. And I mean, Kyle Busch was disappointing because he was running up there and spun, but when you're leading the race and get spun out, that's bad. No, not get spun out, you just end up losing it. Um, that's got to be heartbreaking for him. I didn't really have him as somebody that I thought would be good. His name did cross my mind when I was making the pick, but I thought he might run well, but I didn't think he was going to compete for the win and certainly be leading laps today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 21 car itself is still hard to think about being a front runner as much as it has been this year with Josh Berry in the car. Um, but I still don't have him quite as a every week contender, but I have him in a top 10 to 15 driver minimum is what I expect out of him. And when he has great days like he had today, I'm not surprised. That's kind of how I see it.
Okay, let's play a little game real quick. Josh Berry, better or worse than Ty Gibbs?
Uh, if I were to do the year as a whole, I say he's better than Ty Gibbs. But Ty Gibbs has also been showing more strength, so it's kind of hard for me to put a real gauge on it. But right now, I gotta say Josh Berry.
If you had to put one driver in your car, you'd rather have who?
Um, right now, probably Josh Berry.
Okay. There's a lot of there's not a lot of confidence in these answers. Let's try another one here. Josh Berry or Chase Briscoe?
um, Josh Berry.
Josh Berry or Carson Hocevar?
Mm, man, I just with Hocevar, I don't know if it's him or the team
Hmm.
because he runs fast, and I just feel like the team or something lets him down or strategy wise. But I think as a driver, I'd probably rather have Hocevar
Okay.
just based on flat out speed that he can bring the car.
Okay. Josh Berry or Austin Cindric?
Mm. And to me, they're pretty equal considering they're also in the same equipment right now. So I don't know. I could probably take either or. I'm being more of a Josh Berry fan. I'd probably take Josh Berry just based on that. But I don't know if I can decide by skill.
Okay. So does that mean you take Hocevar over Cindric too?
Probably, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just not much of a fan of Cindric. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's
Um,
hard to take bias out of a lot of these things based on who you like better or this or that too. But
Josh Berry or Chase Elliott?
I'm taking Chase Elliott 100%. I'm gonna get him a new crew chief is what I gotta do.
Oh, wow.
But
Throwing out on the street.
man, that and I was defending Allen so much last year or year and a half when people were saying get rid of him, but I don't know, something just isn't right with that team. So
Do you think that the struggle with Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson is the same as, say, Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick with the Gen 7 car? Do
I
you
think
think that
that's a lot of it too.
Do
But
you think
yeah,
that Alan Gustafson's hands are just tied because of what this car is?
I think that's it. You
Yeah.
know, that they just I feel like Chase and Kyle are similar that this car doesn't suit their driving style. And it may not suit the crew chief style either.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. There's only so much you can do with this car, but at the same point, I could argue that Chase has been the fourth best car in the Hendrick stable. So evidently the other three teams are finding more speed than Chase's.
True.
Um, and I'm going back to the Gen 6 car, Chase and Larson in 2000. Like Chase won it in the championship in 2000 and
2020.
and yeah, 2020, yeah. 2020 and Larson won in 2021. You could argue Chase and Larson were the best two drivers in 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Larson with that Gen 6 car, I think he made the point I'd have so many wins by this point if we still had a car. I think it's hard to argue him with that point because I think that suits his driving style um, and whatnot. But I just I don't know. I know for sure. I think Chase has struggled with this car, although he had the most wins in the car 2022 when it first came out. Um, but I think that's because everybody was still learning, and the way everybody drove it was still trying to drive it the same as the other car. So his skill may have outplayed everyone in that regard when everyone else learned to drive the car or made it suit their driving style. And it just hasn't panned out for Chase. Everyone's starting to advance with the car, and he hasn't caught up with it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're have a consistency. They're fourth in points. I mean, it's it's not like he's a terrible driver out there. I mean, he's probably I don't know if he has the best average finish right now, but he did last year. But it looks like he's still putting that type of season together where they're just knocking out top tens or decent finishes at the end of these races, but he's not up leading laps, dominating like he would be every once in a while here and there. Even that race last year at Texas wasn't a dominating win. It was kind of similar to how Joey Logano won it this year. Just attrition, cautions brought him to the front, and he took the lead at the right point and made the right blocks there at an overtime finish. So you could argue that win itself was lucky he got that even. So, um, I don't know what's up with him or the crew chief or something, but I say something needs to at least change. Whether it's Allen's fault or not, but sometimes a new fresh mind in there can change something.
Yeah. Did you see the the video clip of McDowell's crew chief after he wrecked with his head in his hands?
Yeah,
Did you see that somebody said Chipper Jones right now after
yeah.
Joe Logano won? That was a good tweet. That was
I
hilarious.
also saw, I don't know if it was NASCAR Man or NASCAR Chasm or whatever, put a tweet of a gift, someone throwing everything off the table or something. Chipper Jones right now.
Yeah, Chipper congratulated him on Twitter though.
Yeah.
Um,
That's how you better act. Now think about it better next time or something. That's how I said, this is what we expect of you. Like it was
yeah,
kind of
he
like,
did.
yeah, now you did better. But
I got to hit you with one more driver who you'd rather have, and then we got to wrap this up. Uh, Kyle Busch or Josh Berry?
um,
This is gonna make
I'm going to probably have to say Josh Berry because he's been driving his car better than Kyle Busch. If it was any other car like an Xfinity car, I'd take Kyle Busch all day.
yeah,
That's kind of how I have to put that one. The
yeah.
next gen car, I have to take Josh Berry.
Okay, that's a fair point. The rest of the weekend, the Truck Series, Corey Heim won. I didn't watch the race. I'm not disinterested in the Truck Series. I just had other things going on Friday night. The Xfinity Series race, Justin Allgaier win that?
He got Chris
Kyle,
rated. He got
yeah, Kyle Larson won the race, subbing for Connor Zillage, who's apparently hurt bad enough that he's out of the car a couple weeks. Feel like something's fishy there, but I don't know the whole story, and I'm not going to speculate on it. Uh, the Xfinity race looked like it was pretty good. I didn't get to see a lot of it, but I saw some bits and pieces of it. It looked like it was pretty good, and there was a lot of wrecks, especially on restarts, and that grass was kind of taking some victims with it too. You watched the race. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great race. The Xfinity car is a far better car, even though it still has a front splitter. So, but yeah,
Bring
it
back
just
Valence.
yeah, yeah. I watched it and enjoyed the race. I'm not that I can for some reason a lot of it's not coming to me, but cars could pass normally. You could drive within a couple car lengths of a guy's bumper and not lose the nose and up the track. And they still the track itself is still treacherous, and you could see guys get loose and get out of the groove and really lose it up the track. But that's more of a Texas fault than an Xfinity Series fault. Um, you know, the I don't remember, there was only like 6 cars on the lead lap or something like that at one point when a caution fell, and so Kyle Larson pitted, and I think everybody pitted at that point. Maybe it was then they took the wave around, and then whatever one of the final cautions, Kyle's crew chief said, I think we have to take tires to win this, and he came out, restarted eighth, and um, he was up to like second within like a half a lap because tires mattered that much or something. Other guys stayed out or took two, and he of course I think he'd have won the race if it stayed green, but he had to do a couple of green white checker restarts, and once he was restarting outside on the outside lane, it was just that was it for I believe that was Sam Mayer and that final restart, and Larson just drove off. He had fresher tires than everyone else, but I just overall, even if Larson wasn't in this race, I thought it was a really good race.
Yeah, and that's how racing should be. The faster, the better tires and the fastest car are going to win the race.
Yeah,
And I mean, I don't want to see Kyle Larson win. I'd rather see Sam Mayer win, but that I would, 100 times out of 100, I want to see the fastest car with the best tires win the race.
yeah.
Minus like somebody's gambling and trying to stay out, and you're seeing that car catch them, but they just don't get there in time. I could concede to something like that.
The only funny thing about that was I saw on Twitter Dale Jr. poked fun at himself that Larson wasn't supposed to run any more Xfinity Series races, and Dale was urging him to run more races to see if we could beat him or see if they could beat him. Now he's in their car and he had
Yeah.
no one win the race. It's like we urged him to come to see if we could beat him, and now he's in our car. So
That is funny.
that was funny, but that was
I'm
I yeah, watching Larson dominate, I think is really fun to watch. Just as a HMS fan,
Yeah,
Larson
like
fan.
the only people it's fun for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Dirty Mo podcasts have now. Have this week coming up, see what those guys have to say. I always enjoy listening to the Teardown, to DBC, to Denny Hamlin's Actions Detrimental, and of course Dale Jr. as well. And I hope that this is a podcast that people will like to mix into that rotation as well. It doesn't take up a ton of time, and uh, hear what just a couple of fans are thinking from watching every week and absorbing all that stuff as well. So I appreciate everybody that does watch, everybody that does listen, and we appreciate you guys checking out our content on social media, on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, and make sure that you keep commenting, liking, subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we're going to see you guys after Kansas.